Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon, or good whatever time frame it happens to be in the locality of space-time that you exist in. Welcome once again to Full Fat Spoiler Chat. The word spoilers in the name, folks. There's spoilers. Spoilers going to be happening. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. This is, of course, brought to you by Nerd Caliber. And joining me tonight is the stalwart, the red-shirted, hopefully that's not a sign. Yes, red shirt. Byron, introduce yourself, please.
Hello, friends. Name's Byron McNeil, aka Byron D0. I am a contributing writer and social media expert for the site. I do a bunch of different things using the name Byron D0. But other than writing nerdy stuff, I'm working on a webcomic, which I've promoted before. And a big deal for me this month is I have been doing an Inktober challenge using digital art. So if you get it, if you're on Instagram, look for all one word, the artist known as Byron D0.
That would be the artist known as Byron D0. Check it out, folks. Cool stuff. I like the Doctor Strange one. That was really neat.
Yes. Thanks.
So, before we get into this, once again, this is about The Boys. We will be discussing seasons 1 and 2, which just wrapped up recently. It's going to be full of spoilers. The name of the show is Full Fat Spoiler Chat. If you don't want to be spoiled with information about The Boys, please turn off right now. Go somewhere else. Watch one of our previous videos. Do something else. But subscribe and like if you like it. And of course, if you're not going to watch it, who knows whether you're going to like it. Anyway, welcoming some of the people in the chat. Luminous, welcome. And I'm going to answer your next question here. Is the graphic novel done, or are new issues still coming out? I'm curious if the graphic novel has a beginning, middle, and end, and if the TV show will as well.
It's been done for years.
It's been done for years. It only ran for 3 years or 2 years. So it's over. It was originally published as a single issue series. Then they did trades and so on. So it was never published as a single graphic novel. So now does that mean that the series will have a beginning, middle, and end? We'll get into that a little bit in the structure of how things have changed. I'm guessing it won't structurally fit the way the series itself did as far as beginning, middle, and end, but I don't know that for sure. In fact, I don't think anybody except Seth Rogen and the other producers know. Let's see. Shieldcat, welcome to the show. Renato, welcome to the show. Yvette, welcome to the show, and sorry you can't watch the whole video. If that's because of spoilers, we understand. If that's because you have to go somewhere, we understand. Shieldcat, you're getting close to spamming it so that I can't read what other people say, because you put so many messages in there, it's disappearing. So please tamp it down a little. And that said, let's get rolling. So, The Boys. Let's get a little bit about the history of it. We do this. This is going to be a regular thing in the show. We're going to talk about the original history. Boys was a comic book written by Garth Ennis, illustrated and designed by Derek Robertson. Started in 2006. At Wildstorm, which at that point was under DC Comics. It was a completely separate studio imprint of DC. Unlike Ennis's Preacher, which had been published previously under DC's...
Vertigo, yes.
DC's house imprint, Vertigo. A little bit about Wildstorm. It was founded by Jim Lee and Brandon Choi as one of the founding studios under the publisher Image, when they all broke off from mostly Marvel and some DC. But they went and sold it to DC in the late 90s, so before Ennis started doing his work here. And The Boys was so controversial for DC that they only ran it for 6 issues. There was a gap for a few months while they were looking for another publisher. Surprisingly, DC let them have all of the rights. And then they wound up at Dynamite Entertainment, which finished out the whole series. Then it had a couple of development deals that didn't go through, and then Amazon picked it up, and boom. Same production company that did Preacher on AMC. That's Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's production company.
Yes.
And those are both Garth Ennis properties. So we're going to start with, is this good? What do we like about it? What do we dislike about it? Before we get into sort of the sort of, is it social commentary? Is it just gore porn? What's going on with this show? Byron, hit me. Is it good? Is it okay? Is it awful? What is it?
Well, season 1 was definitely a slow burn because it followed a lot of the beats from the source material, which I'm fairly familiar with. It kind of just felt like it was going to be a whole bunch of edgelord entertainment. But then the end of season 1 was just like, oh, okay. So it was like it left off on a very interesting premise.
Yeah.
And then we get into season 2, and they were just like, "We're done with you, Mr. Ennis. We're gonna do what we want now."
Yeah, yes and no, in my opinion. So I think that season 1, while a little bit slower than many of the parts of season 2, was overall a better paced season. They had to introduce sort of the world of the boys to people who weren't terribly familiar with it, but I think they did that in a wonderful way by, having, these interweaving arcs of, the boys, the whole the translucent, that capture and ultimately, I don't know if mistaken kill isn't the right word. And then, Starlight's joining the Seven, all of that. I thought in season 2, the first few episodes were really slow. And I think part of that was because they got a little bit away from the sort of gore porn in the first few episodes. That there was less horrific interaction between the team and the soups until they really started dealing with Stormfront. So until episode 3 and then 4 and the last 4 episodes, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just zoomed right along. But overall, I really like this show. I think it's done very well. I think you can see the money in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, special effects, in particular special makeup effects, but even, the flying effects and the lightning effects and all, the other stuff. The prehensile schlong effects.
Thank you for reminding me about that. Love sausage.
Love sausage. They're all really well done. And so I've got to give them credit for that. I enjoy the show. And as one of our regular contributors to Nerd Caliber of every type, but also our Tuesday news show, Gogo Incognito, has said, there's just too many trigger warnings for her and for a lot of her friends. If there's something horrible that happens to a human being, it happens in this show, on screen.
That's one of the things that I appreciate about it, with what they've done in season 2 and how unapologetic they are with their more intense content. You have to give me an example, because I think season 1 was more intense and brutal. Well, I mean, like Stormfront's lineage is a good one.
Okay, all right. So again, since this is a spoiler chat. This is a big spoiler for season 2. But it comes out of at least the basic brush of it comes out of the comic. Yeah. Even though Stormfront is a guy in the comic. So Stormfront, it turns out, is a Nazi.
Yes.
but not even a neo-Nazi, like a 1940s actual, went on, dinner dates with her husband and Hitler Nazi.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I couldn't have said it better myself.
And yeah, they were unapologetic about that. We'll get into this a little bit more, but I think they also were. So season 1 was tonally kind of a, you let corporations have this kind of power, and of course they're going to be awful because corporations are evil, and that's just, they did it in an interesting way in tying in superheroes and everything like that. But that story's been told a million times.
Yes, it has. It's basically comparing Happy Time Murders to Avenue Q.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, one
I still think they did an excellent job making that story that, corporations are bad, blah, blah, blah. And there are others that have done a much worse job, I think. But
Watchmen movie.
A Watchmen movie.
Yes, the movie.
Yeah, to some extent, except that in that case, it was the only corporation that was painted as bad was Veight's corporation, and that was specifically because Veidt was doing something evil with it.
Yes.
But in season 2, you get a lot more social and political commentary.
Absolutely, and I also feel that this was essentially a redemption arc for the bulk of the cast, because you see for most of the 7 and all of the boys, you see their more human side.
And that's one of the things that I really like about this season 2. And again, I like season 1 a lot. I think the pacing of season 1 was more even and consistent. I think some of the writing about superpowers was more logical in season 1. Okay, I'll get into that after I say one of the things I really like about season 2. This is one of the things I kind of dislike about season 2. But one of the things I like is the fact that they allowed these horrible, horrible people to have moments of humanity. That they weren't just the horrible people that they were in season 1.
Absolutely.
I was really surprised. Hey, Greg, Luminous, Wonder Llama, welcome to the show. Chat away. I'm sure you've got lots of wonderful things. If I missed you wanting to join in, let me know, but I think you're just going to be on the chat. So when Homelander actually started telling his son, Ryan, about how he was frightened the first time he got exposed to a really large crowd, because he was raised in a lab.
Yep.
And actually cried, which Ryan was doing. It's like, wow, all right. And he wasn't lying. You could tell that he wasn't lying.
Yeah, he dropped his guard for his son.
Right. When Stormfront talked about her daughter dying of Alzheimer's, Stormfront was born in 1919. In her case, one of the side effects of the Compound V is that she's essentially immortal, or at least extremely long-lived. And she watched her own daughter grow old and die, and that was a very humanizing moment. Stormfront's a Nazi and deserved everything that she got. She deserved more of it. But that was wonderfully humanizing, and the writers in the show allowed that to happen for a horrible, horrible villain.
Because at the end of the day, she's human. No matter, in spite of her sins, she's a human being.
And her sins are extensive.
Great, yes, great number.
Yes, they count a great number. Greg, well, if you just popped in to say hi, do hang around as long as you can and contribute if you want.
One thing I definitely praise the writers for was the interactions with Stormfront. Like, they made her racist jabs very subtle towards him. Because, those kind, like, I feel like a lot of insult humor is very low hanging fruit.
Yep.
And, she didn't mince words, but she was still at the same time very tactful.
Yep. So here's where we're potentially going to lose people, because I'm going to make an actual direct, real correlation between a living politician and the way Stormfront functions, and that is Jeff Sessions. There is zero question whatsoever based on his attempt to become a judge back decades ago, and the testimony about his behavior, that Jeff Sessions is a racist. There's zero question. Nobody who looks into this could possibly think otherwise. Jeff Sessions does an excellent job of prevaricating, denying, and doing everything he can to make it look like he is not a racist. And Stormfront was written, you could almost hear Stephen Miller or Jeff Sessions or any of those racists saying exactly what Stormfront said, and particularly when they got to how Stormfront was using memes and social media to drive anger and devotion among her fan base, to deepen her fan base, and to radicalize her fan base. It was brilliant. It was not subtle commentary.
Not at all.
Because you could literally have taken, she doesn't wear an SF or anything, but you could literally have written Jeff Sessions across her chest. Or Steve Miller, actually. Stephen Miller. Not to confuse him with the rocker, because that would be bad.
Ooh, yes, that would.
But so now I'm going to get into one of the things that I thought was a little bit weaker in season 2 than season 1, other than pacing, and that is the way they dealt with powers. They made a point in multiple points within season 1 that because Homelander is essentially an analog for Superman, he also, in addition to having heat vision, super strength, and vulnerability, he has super hearing. And that became a problem for people multiple times within the first season.
Mm-hmm.
It was completely ignored at situations where it would have become...
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing.
Like the tunnels, when they're trying to escape in the tunnels. There is zero chance that, even particularly because it's tunnels, that Homelander wouldn't hear literally every breath and know exactly where everybody was. Now, they did use it at the end as a weapon against him, which was smart, but they completely ignored it up to that point. Not listening into conversations on the 99th floor. He should hear everything that happens on the 99th floor, if he's on that floor. But so that kind of bothered me a little bit. They slipped up a little in how they were dealing with powers.
Yeah, I did like. I remember thinking that momentarily, especially in the finale. It's just like, why hasn't you found them already?
Yeah, exactly. And even if there are a lot of people who write apologists. Oh, because of this posts on Twitter and so on. So let's say an apologist said, "Oh, it's because he was still feeling the effects of the sonic attack." At the end, like, all right, well, you can a good writer, and they are good writers, could write that in as just a comment. Or even a head shake. It's like, he does this, and damn it, and then his hearing's still fucked up. All right. All right. So the gist of it is, I think we're both in agreement that both seasons are really good. We have a slight, like the balance goes this way a little bit for both of us as to which is a little bit better, season 1 or season 2, or even then, I don't know that that's necessarily true. We have different reasons why we think one is better or the other. Let's put it that way. But I think we both agree it's a good show, with all the trigger warnings that were ever invented.
Oh yes,
placed in front of it. That's going to be said right out there.
Like, I found myself even liking A-Train by the end of season 2.
A
little, like, more than I did last season,
yes.
I should say.
Ultimately, they did an excellent job of showing that he's not necessarily any better of a person. His reaction to him being put back into the Seven and the Deep not is just a total asshole reaction to the Deep.
It is.
So he's still an asshole.
Yeah, he's definitely still in it for himself.
But they humanize him a little bit. Well, actually, I think they did that in season 1. I think that they made it very clear that he was completely destroyed emotionally for quite a while because of the fact that he killed his girlfriend. He did it. He's a horrible person for it, and he's an asshole for doing it. But it really screwed him up, and I think they did a good job with that in season 1.
It kind of felt like the manipulation Olympics at certain points within the Seven.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had Starlight, who was just like, "Oh, you're gonna rat me out, but I have this on you."
Right.
And she had it for both of them. It's like, I have this on Stormfront, and I have this on you, A-Train. Don't test me.
Yeah, that was good with Starlight. I liked what they did with her character, but it wasn't a whole lot of character development. I mean, she got a little bit tougher, which was nice to see. But as
she's come to terms with her own faith now too. It seems
maybe.
Yeah,
that may also be, and the point is she's put her cross back on, or another cross that her mom bought her at the end of the season, after she had taken it off because she lost her religion, which is not the way that term actually means in the South. But she lost her faith. She had a crisis of faith after realizing that the Seven in season 1, the Seven was essentially using evangelical Christianity to basically further drive their fan base, their viewership, and it was as to make more money because they're a corporate entity. So let's go into social commentary. I think, and I've mentioned this before, that season 1 was sort of thematically more like the comic book in some cases, but certainly more like a lot of other stuff. Give corporations too much power, and they're going to be evil because they're inherently not good.
There's no ethical consumption in capitalism.
Exactly. In the late stages of capitalism. This season, as I said, is a lot more social commentary. So you've got Queen Maeve's bisexuality is a big issue. You've got female empowerment as a big lip service.
Yeah.
It's in there. It's not real.
Oh no, not. Oh yeah, it was poking fun at in game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they did that. Yeah, they did a great. I love that bit where Maeve, Stormfront, and Starlight sort of get all together. This is all in a production. This is all being filmed. There's nothing real about it. I love the fact that they had Greg Grunberg as an actor, as Greg Grunberg playing a character, a police detective or something, FBI agent, in this series that they do that is sort of like a the story of the Seven.
The Dawn of the Seven.
Oh, God. Well, that was one of the movies, apparently. So I like the fact that they were doing that. I think they were... So the first season wasn't particularly subtle with the corporate evil stuff, but then it didn't need to be. The second season is even less subtle with the political and social commentary, mostly the political commentary, because the social commentary, again, Queen Maeve and her bisexuality and so on, that was almost by the numbers. Although I got to give them credit for this, they were so good at the people at Vought insisting that she's a lesbian, not bisexual, that by the time it ends and you see there's a scene where she's, she just slept with a man, I went, wait a minute. And then I went, no, wait a minute. She's actually canonically bisexual in the show. They are so good at trying to snow everybody else that I got snowed for a few seconds. But the social commentary subtlety, and it ended for me hard when they introduced the character. She was actually introduced at the end of season 1. Okay, where the heck is she? I know I got a picture. Maybe I didn't bring a picture of her up. Oh, that was stupid. Anyway, Victoria Newman, the representative, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. 100%. That's. There's no question that's who this is supposed to be. Some right-wing pundit actually pokes fun at her. How cute she was in her Dance Like an Egyptian video that she posted on social media. And I'm like, that's literally what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did and what somebody said about it. I'm like, okay, they're not being subtle here at all.
Nope.
The church is Scientology.
Yeah, it is.
No question. When the Deep is criticizing the church and says, look, I didn't even laugh when you said we come from these like little baby space alien sperm. I'm like, yep. But, paying money to advance levels, and it's Scientology, 100%.
Yeah. What I didn't get was the whole Fresca thing.
The whole what?
The whole Fresca thing.
I don't know what that's about either. I think it's an in-joke, like a Hollywood in-joke for maybe Tom Cruise or maybe somebody else who's like a well-known Scientologist. But I don't know for sure. I have to look at that.
Would you like a Fresca?
Yes, would you like a Fresca? I kind of like Fresca, and I really wanted one by the time that season was done. Harry Brady, welcome to the show. And again, Harry, this is called Full Fat Spoiler Chat. There's spoilers for the boys here. Season 1 and Season 2. If you haven't seen it and you don't want it to be spoiled,
you shouldn't be here.
You've been warned. So what did you think about the quality and the value of the social commentary in either season, but particularly Season 2?
It was pretty solid for the most part. I didn't pick up on the AOC reference initially, but yeah, I like now it's been brought to my attention. It's like, yeah, I can see that. But considering to the revelation at the end of episode 8,
yep,
it seems like they're going to turn that on its head next season.
Well, maybe. It's because Kala Slaughter, welcome to the show. Kala, once again, just to remind everybody, this is a spoilery show. We're spoilering the ever-living bejesus out of Season 1 and Season 2 of The Boys. If you don't want to have that spoiled for you, see you later. But heads up, and I'm about to spoil the very last scene, or almost the last scene, of the last episode of Season 2. In reference to what Byron was just hinting at. So at some point at a very big crucial point where there's some testimony supposed to be happening to a House subcommittee, in the middle, 2/3 of the way through Season 2, suddenly the people who were about to testify, heads start exploding.
Yes.
And here's the thing, I didn't realize this until I watched the Mr. Sunday Movies podcast, which they were talking about The Boys, Season 2. And there was an interview with one of the writers, or one of the executive producers. And when Raina, the FBI agent, or the CIA agent in Season 1... Yes, Greg, mute it. So, Greg, when I'm done talking about the Season 2 spoiler, I'll go this, so you can come back. Raina's head explodes, They say, does anybody know anybody, a soup that can do that after it happens? And then he said, if you watch that, they immediately cut to the first press conference you ever see with Victoria Newman.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't pick up on that at all.
I didn't, and I didn't remember it until they showed this clip of the executive producer mentioning that. But that's the spoiler: is that Victoria Newman, who is in this, because it's her, she's on the subcommittee that's doing the investigation. She is actually the one that she is a super, and she has a soup, and she has the ability to do this to cause people's, one would assume, parts, but apparently mostly heads.
Something psychic based.
Yeah, to kaboom. And at the end of season 2, she does that to the head of the church that the Deep and then A-Train for a little while were involved in. And so that's the big spoiler that Byron was referring to about why Newman's character may be a villain. That may be the case, but I'm really keen to see what her motivation is for doing this, because I don't think she's doing it for Vought.
I think she's trying. I think it's more like she's against Vought. She's against the government. I'd get. This is told me spitballing. This is a total revenge plot.
That could very well be, but it would be as well hidden, or even more well hidden, than Stormfront's background, if it hasn't come out yet, as to what her background is that would lead her to want this kind of revenge. It could be. So, Greg, you can come back. So, I think the social commentary is a vast improvement over the comic book. The comic book is basically all about power being evil and corrupting, particularly in corporations.
Yep.
And particularly with superheroes. And that's one of the reasons why DC dropped it, is that later on they introduced one minor supergroup that actually seems to be made up of mostly good people. But until they get to that point, and aside from Starlight, every superhero is either just downright horribly evil, or at the very least completely amoral, or dumber than a box of rocks, or in some cases both.
Well, that's Garth Ennis' style, because he hates superhero stories.
He does.
Yes.
And he's written some wonderful other stories, like Preacher. Preacher's absolutely amazing. And then he's written other stuff like Crossed, which I will never ever read because it's just too disturbing. But in the comic, they are so one-dimensional. They're bad.
Yep.
They're bad or dumb, or bad and dumb.
Like Homelander and Black Noir.
Black Noir. In the series, they're bad, most of them. Some of them have redemption, Queen Maeve. Mm-hmm. Some of them have a little bit of redemption, even though it's sort of driven by being brainwashed by the church. The Deep does become a better person. But as Byron said earlier, the big thing is that they're human. They make these characters, even the really awful ones, human.
Yeah, like you see vulnerability in Homelander this season that you didn't see in season 1.
And because of that, the social commentary that they do has a stronger impact. In the comic book, it's almost satirical parody. The superheroes are so one note consistently terrible. And it makes this commentary about power and its danger more effective when you have those horrible people who are corrupted by their immense power show that at some level they still have some humanity, and that means this could be anybody. And in that sense, I think it really is, particularly season 2, really smart social commentary. Now the gore and the violence and the sex and the drugs and the sex with violence and blood and drugs and yeah. I don't know that the story would have the impact. I'm reminded of the Twilight Zone episode, It's a Good Life. Oh my God. So Luminous, if you ever get a chance to read the actual short story, It's a Good Life, it's so much better even than that episode, and that episode is really good. The horror that the people in that town feel because of what they have to accept is so much more palpable in the story than it is in the episode. I can't recommend that story strongly enough.
Is that the one with the kid that can basically? Okay, yeah, I haven't actually seen that episode, but I've seen it parodied on The Simpsons.
Yeah, so watch the episode if you get a chance, but definitely read the story also, because it's one of the best written speculative fiction horror type stories. I can picture Harlan Ellison reading it and throwing a book in anger, thinking that, because he didn't actually think of this. It's so Ellison-like. But anyway, thanks for the distraction there, Luminous. I forgot about that story, and I will flog that story forever. So, is the fact that this show couldn't have the impact that it has without all of that sex, violence, gore, etc., worth all of it?
I think it had its place. It wasn't inherently necessary, but I mean, it all depends on like what your expectations were going in.
Yeah, true. So if the idea is that they're trying to present is that superheroes, if they actually have real powers and they become amoral scumbags at the very best, would do things that are horrifying in ways that we currently can't really imagine, like exploding a guy's girlfriend right in front of him because you're tripping balls on Compound V and running too fast. I think that it would be very hard for us to conceive of just how horrible this world would be if they don't bluntly show how horrible it is or how horrible it could be.
Yeah.
Freddie Plays, hello, welcome to the show. Anytime somebody logs in, we say it. The words are all over it. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. Spoilers! As Byron shouted. We are talking about The Boys, Season 1 and Season 2. If you do not want to have that show spoiled for you, mute, go away, do something, stay here, and we're going to spoil it. We're wrapping up, actually, and we're getting to the point where we're talking about the value, if there is value, in the excessive adult content. Not porn, although there is some of that in this episode, or this season.
Literal porn.
Literal porn. I love Hugh's reaction when Lamplighter suggests the porn parody version of Starlight. Like, oh no, I'm good. So weigh in with this. So the topic on the table right now, Freddie, is the level of violence, of gore, of sex, of depravity justified by the world that they're trying to present and the social commentary that they're trying to make?
I definitely want to add to that right now. Yeah. I would say it would have been harder to convey the cruelty of some of these soups without it.
Yep.
Like especially Stormfront, when she and this is a big spoiler, kills Kimikos brother.
Yes.
Yes. You're kind of just like, oh my god, she's a monster like the rest of them.
So, and here's a big spoiler again, but for season 1 and season 2, I'm a little. So when Kimiko first, we didn't even touch on that. Kimiko is given a name in the series,
Yes. Which
as opposed to just the female. And here's one thing that. So Garth Ennis's comic is more misogynistic than the show.
absolute friggin' lootly.
And the show has. Yes, and one of the reasons why I said it pays lip service to female empowerment is that it also kills women off left and right. Women. Go ahead.
I will say that at the very last episode, they tried their best to make it as non-cliche as possible.
True, true. But up to that point, Robin gets killed in the very first episode of season 1.
Yep.
We don't know anything about the character, so she's really a woman in refrigerator.
Yep.
Madeline, at the end of season 1, that's an important character. Important character, female character dies. Any other important characters, male character, die up to that point? Nope. You can't really call.
Translucent.
You can't call him an important character because you see him for 2 episodes.
True.
You don't see him for 2 episodes.
But he's there.
Yeah, so Reyna at the end of season 1. Very important character. There was somebody. Oh, huge spoiler for the end of season 2, and going forward. So again, Becca.
Yes.
Very important character in season 2. So at least 4 important female characters with important speaking roles are killed off, aside from the head of the church, who isn't really that important ultimately.
No.
There is no major male character in this series that dies. And so, like I say, it's less misogynistic than the comic book, but it's got problems.
Yeah, it does. I was gonna say, the comic definitely set the bar extremely low.
Yeah, well, just the fact that they're all the boys, and the one female, the one non-boy member of the team is called the female, not the girl, the female.
Mm-hmm. I do want to add to that, like, while the woman in the fridge trope was running like a train, there were some moments from Becca in the season where I was just like, wow, go you.
No question. And they made her a badass, like she's not, her name is Becky in the comic, which I'm not really sure why they made that change, but she is not a badass in the comic. And they made her an absolute badass and tough and really, a good, wonderful, interesting, and complex character. Luminous, I'm surprised there's not a lot of graphic sex in The Boys compared to Spartacus or Game of Thrones. It's a good point. There was a little bit more in the first season. The whole, going down on a female superhero until she squishes your head. That was interesting. And also Luminous, I suppose the lack of graphics sex seems to make the show more claustrophobic, and that the gore is relentless. The gore does seem to make the show more intense. And like we said, I think Byron put it properly. That's, that drives home the message. That makes it, these people are awful and they've got superpowers, so this is the kind of awfulness that you would actually see.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, having said that, I think that in some extent it does go just for the gore porn, and in both cases they have been at the expense of cetaceans. Season 1, the dolphin. Season 2, the whale. Those two scenes did not need to exist except as examples of gore. It's so the show does go down the path of, hi, let's show people gore just to be gory and shocking and frankly, in some cases funny. The dolphin scene was way funnier than the whale scene, but still. But yeah, so I think that we're both in agreement that it kind of has to be there, the gore at least, and the ultraviolence, to be able to fit the theme of the show, which is you give people this level of power, like actual superpowers. This is the horrible world that you're going to end up with.
Indeed.
So I think we went longer than I expected because this is an interesting show.
Yes.
So I think that kind of wraps it up. The general question, is it smart commentary or Gore-Fest, is yes, it's both. Particularly season 2 is smarter commentary. I was going to say not so much gore, but yeah, no, there's a lot of gore.
Yes.
Heads explode, and we're not talking pretty colorful mushroom cloud brains coming out of the head like Kingsman, which was great, a great way to show that, of people's heads exploding. But in this case, it's like brains and bone bits.
Yes. Like the warm-up to that was crazy. You're just like, as soon as I saw the nosebleed, I'm just like, oh, hell.
Yep. It was... even just that's one more thing that, again, I didn't think of, but the guys at Mr. Sunday Movies brought this up. Why kill Vogelbaum if you're not trying to defend Vought? Either he has a secret that he was about to tell that might have compromised her, or she had another reason, like your theory, revenge, to kill him and then kill everybody else to essentially cover it up. Yes. We'll find out, hopefully, in Season 3. Season 3, Soldier Boy.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. So just to wrap it up, the structure of the show has changed quite a bit from the narrative structure of the comics as to what happens when. We're kind of... You could view Season 1 and Season 2 almost as a prequel, because right now we're at the point where the CIA is taking these independent contractors, essentially, and making them a super secret government team to both keep an eye out and then deal with rogue superheroes. Which is where the comic book starts. That's literally they're already a team in the comic book.
Yes.
So it's going to be very interesting to see where they take that. They've already used an awful lot of elements from the comic book up to this point.
They've scrambled it around a bit, but yes.
Yeah. But anyway.
I was really happy that they included Terror this season.
When they included?
Terror, the pit bull.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I mean, the bulldog, yes.
The pit bull, like you had mentioned, the character Love Sausage is a cameo. Now, not anything like, thank God, the character in the comic. Well, no, actually very much like the character, but not as extensive an appearance, let's put it that way, as the character in the comic.
I've heard that we haven't seen the last of Love Sausage. As
far as we know, we don't know that one died among all the people who died at that facility. And we do know that Cindy did not die. So who knows where that's going to go. But anyway, and you could talk about this forever. The kind of homage to Elfenlied.
Oh, yes.
The door bursts open, girl comes out, what's going on here? She's super naive, doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
and then from a distance can like crush things and tear people apart.
Yes.
It's like, put a helmet on her, and that's Lucy.
Yes.
I thought, there were a lot of nods to various things like that, but that was just
absolutely
another nice one. Anyway, we went way too long. Thank you for joining us, folks. Again, I hope you all took our warnings and you enjoyed the chat. We didn't spoil anything for anybody, but you were warned. Next week, Raised by Wolves. So, I'll have to think of what I'm going to call the overarching question, because the one I wanted to use is in fact a spoiler, and we don't want to do spoilers in the
headline.
In the headline. Thank you.
Yes.
Says the guy who's known for writing headlines. Can't say the word. Anyway, so Raised by Wolves next week. If you want to join in, watch it before then. I've got to finish it. I've got to start it and then finish it.
Same.
And otherwise, good night all. We'll hopefully see a bunch of you on the Tuesday news show. A bunch of interesting topics already dropped.
Yes.
And otherwise, stay safe. And wear the mask, social distance, all that stuff.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. And, anybody who came here and forgot that Biden and Trump were having competing town forums on different networks, sorry to keep you away from all of that fun. Good night, and vote.
Yes, don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote.
So important.